Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. Sorry for the unusual time I'm starting today. It's just the way things have worked out on Sunday. I might actually be coming back on later. But a couple of things I wanted to discuss with you all today. It's the Sunday before the Monday, and things are going to go to hell in a handbasket very quickly tomorrow. If you didn't think they were already, wait for it. I'm going to give you some background on what's going on.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station. Share it with your friends and family if you please, and it would sure please me. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right family and the Stand on Guard family. We try to give you some analysis here, and today is going to be largely analysis of what's going on in Ottawa here. What am I hearing? Well, what's going on is this. Justin Trudeau is desperately trying to recruit Mark Carney as finance minister. Now, you looked at the thumbnail today for the show. We would be going from bad to worse because Mark Carney is a WEF agent. There's no other way to describe what Mark Carney is all about. It's frightening. It's absolutely frightening what this man brings. This is like Justin Trudeau times two, because Carney's a lot more intelligent. I really don't think Justin Trudeau is a very intelligent individual. He is insouciant, narcissistic, egocentric, and he thinks a lot of his abilities. And he is a good political campaigner, I'll give him that, but he is weak as a leader and does not have a lot of intellectual capacity. Mark Carney does. I don't think he uses that intellect in the right direction. But this is a dangerous adversary to have leading the finance department. Now, what's going on? Well, so Trudeau is definitely sending Freeland underneath the bus this week. Now, Sunday, yes, we're in a new week. Tomorrow is the fall economic update, like days, literally here, days before the beginning of winter on what is it, the 20th or the 21st now. They keep changing the solstice. But this is going to happen imminent. Tomorrow. We already know it's not going to be a $40 billion deficit. It's at least 60, perhaps double the 40. This is absolutely frightening. And people say, well, so what? The government just spends money like water. This will be an indication. We could be actually losing a credit rating on this. This is an indication of a government that cannot control its spending, and that still matters on the international stage. But it further demonstrates something I always say on this program is that taxation today has nothing to do with providing the money the government needs to spend. The government will spend money it doesn't have. It taxes today as a punitive measure to punish you. So the carbon tax is a punishment. Yes, you get a little bit back in the rebate that Trudeau consistently lies about. But taxation today is largely punitive. It's to punish. Just like Trudeau freezing the bank accounts of the Freedom Convoy organizers, participants, even supporters had bank accounts frozen. I know people who had their bank accounts frozen. I'm surprised I didn't have my bank account frozen for being on the scene reporting positive news about the Freedom Convoy. But that's what we're up against, a government that will use taxation and will use the finance department to punish you for your political views and your political opinions. And that is what is so extremely frightening about going from Chrystia Freeland, who is bad, to going from Mark Carney. So what I'm hearing is that Trudeau is not getting very far with Carney. It's 50-50 that Carney was going to come on board. Carney, of course, wants the Liberal leadership, but it's a difficult decision because there's no way replacing Justin Trudeau with Mark Carney is going to somehow save the Liberal Party from virtual extinction in the next election. And I've gone over the polling in the past. With the Liberals tied for second or third place, however you want to look at it, with the NDP, there's going to be such tremendous vote splitting between Liberals and NDP in these ridings that even in the strongest Liberal ridings, Toronto, Vancouver, where they are consistently getting those urban downtown seats, these are up for grabs now because the vote is going to be split between the NDP and the Liberals as which candidate is going to defeat the Conservative candidate. It's going to be a battle between that. And even when you combine the numbers of both of them, it's not enough. So it's going to mean the virtual extinction of the Liberal Party, perhaps even the NDP. This will be an election unlike any in Canadian history because the Liberal Party could face, as I keep saying, virtual extinction, as well as the NDP. Now, that's never happened before because the NDP has usually had its best political season at the expense of the Liberals. You saw that the last time the Liberals suffered political humiliation, the NDP became the official opposition. That's not going to happen this time. It's going to be a battle to see who comes in to occupy that. It might even be the Bloc Québécois again as the official opposition if things continue as this, because this is going to be a virtual shutout for both of these parties. And like I say, watch, wait, and see what's going to happen because this is going to be historic. So the other option Trudeau has is to find somebody else to take the cabinet. Now, there's been talk about Melanie Joly moving over. I mean, she can't handle the foreign affairs file. But Trudeau needs a change. There's a cabinet shuffle coming, probably before Christmas. He's got several cabinet ministers who have stepped down, several cabinet ministers who are retiring and not running again. So he's very anxious to have a cabinet shuffle because it's like moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic, of course, but he will try anything. Trudeau is a desperate man. You have to understand that, and I'm sure you all do. This is a man who's desperate to stay in power, to cling to whatever pretense of power he can possibly manage. And Chrystia Freeland is going the way of James Philpott, the way of Jody Wilson-Raybould, of cabinet ministers who Trudeau viewed as expendable, and it was time for them to go. And there's no question, Chrystia Freeland really. Just look at how she is responding, and you think there's something terribly wrong here. There are severe. It appears to be. I can't say. I'm not a doctor, and I don't know the woman. In fact, I've met a lot of politicians in my lifetime. She's not one of them. But from anybody with two wits to rub together, any sense of common sense, you can see there's a problem.
Mr. Speaker, I wish you had afforded the same courtesy to the Minister of Finance, who also wanted to answer a question. And I think it would be appropriate to make sure that we apply the same standard moving forward. But what I would like to say to the Leader of the Opposition is that we gave him an opportunity to debate that, and instead of taking it, they ran away afraid. So, Mr. Speaker, I am surprised that he's even bringing this up, because when we gave them an opportunity to hold that vote, they said no, Mr. Speaker. behavior, but that's just another pattern of their behavior where they say one thing and do another.
Okay, a lot of you have said, I've shown this clip before, a lot of you have said, hey, she's just looking at her phone, because that's what these MPs do. And you can see Dominic L'Adult there. Looks like he's staring at his phone too. It's like they're worse than high school kids walking through a mall. They can't take their eyes off their smartphones. But Freeland wakes up here at the end, but it gets worse. Watch this. There is a problem here.
The honourable member.
Globe and Mail.
Just on the fall economic statement, for many years, the previous government did not introduce it in the House of Commons. There's no requirement that it be introduced in the House of Commons. So are you considering alternate locations? And if not, why not?
It's a very good question. Usual practice for our government is to introduce the fall economic statement in the House of Commons.
Now, that was a bit more than a pregnant pause. It's like she's unable to think, unable to speak. We've seen this for quite some time. She also has a tendency to be shaking all the time. These are signs of encroaching physical problems, health issues. And clearly, even the mainstream media has acknowledged that there's a gap, a chasm between Prime Minister's office and the finance ministry, between Freeland and Trudeau. And this is always indicative of Trudeau saying goodbye to a cabinet minister, especially when that cabinet minister happens to be a woman, which of course he's also always defending himself at. Let's have a look at this clip again, too.
Leaked to the media that the deficit will be $60 billion or more. So is it going to be that higher or lower?
Mr. Perkins, because a Conservative filibuster has blocked the work of our Parliament.
Minister, the only filibuster is your unwillingness to produce the documents.
No,
But I would ask you a simple question. Is the deficit going to be higher or lower than the $60 billion your officials have leaked to the media?
I think that it is very important not to cast any doubt on Canada's financial credibility. So I want to take this opportunity to be very clear that Canada's fiscal position is
Will it be above or below $60 billion?
And continues,
yes or no? It's a simple question.
To be
Why won't you answer whether or not it'll be above or below $60 billion? Did you?
Clearly, it's going to be above $60 billion. And as I say, this is going to be economically disastrous as we enter the Christmas season. But Trudeau, of course, not only wants to change the deck chairs on the Titanic, he's looking, as I said yesterday, and I can't emphasize this enough, watch what happens this week in Parliament with the talk about tariffs. Trudeau has got Doug Ford to be his useful idiot on this file, to be out there boisterously advocating for a trade war, because Justin Trudeau wants a trade war desperately. That's the only hope he has of somehow fooling Canadians into thinking he's leading something called Team Canada, when in fact all he's doing is leading Team Trudeau. That's the reality of this. And the challenge, and I hate to use that word, the objective for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives will be not to avoid being co-opted by the Liberals, by the Trudeau government, as their useful idiots. They need to continue to talk about Canada first and the need to fix the border problem now, not in 3 months. It will be too late. And as we've seen, Trump has made it clear, President-elect Donald Trump has made it very clear that just fix the border and the tariffs won't happen. Now, I believe that's exactly what he's trying to achieve with this, because the border crisis in the States is profound, grievous. And it's largely, yes, the southern border, but the terrorists that have entered through Canada, there's a larger percentage of terrorists entering through Canada at the northern border than there are entering the United States through Mexico at the southern border. Donald Trump is not ignorant of this. And it's interesting, of course, that Trudeau is so politically tone deaf that he would talk about how unfortunate it is that American voters did not elect Kamala Harris in the last presidential election or did not elect Hillary Clinton, both of whom lost to Donald Trump. So if Trudeau wants retribution from Donald Trump, he's asking for it. But you think, is he crazy? Well, yes, to some degree he is, but he's also power mad. He knows this is the only opportunity he has to save his position. And somehow Mark Carney's going to figure into this, but I think Mark Carney's actually too smart to even want to get into politics right now because he knows it's a sinking ship. He can see that much. That there's nothing is going to resuscitate this Liberal Party at this point. Nothing. And I think he probably gets that. Justin Trudeau? No, he doesn't get that. More about that in a minute.
Justin Trudeau has lost control of everything after 9 years. He's lost control of spending, lost control of the deficit, lost control of immigration and the border. He has doubled the national debt, adding more debt than all prior prime ministers combined. And now he's completely lost control of our finances. Remember, his minister said there would be a cap on the deficit of no more than $40 billion. $40 billion. And now we hear that the deficit has gone much further than that. Why won't the finance minister tell us the true number? What's she hiding? Is she hiding that Trudeau lost control of the deficit this year, just like every year? Yesterday, you all asked her if she would have a fall economic update. She wouldn't answer. The Prime Minister's office told you that there would be a fall update. So apparently these two don't speak, or maybe they're fighting over how big and out of control the deficit actually is. Once again, such a fight would be a loss of control by the Prime Minister. And so we're today, Common Sense Conservatives, are calling for the Finance Minister to introduce a fall update to indicate whether she's keeping her promise to cap the deficit at $40 billion or whether Trudeau's completely lost control of the deficit once again. Not only will we cooperate to let her introduce that fall update, we will actually give her a Christmas gift. We'll give her 2 hours out of our Conservative Opposition Motion Day on Monday for her to stand on her feet and tell us how much she's lost control of the nation's finances. So the challenge is over to Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau. Stand on your feet Monday at 4 p.m. We'll clear the deck so you can do it and tell us how badly you've lost control of the nation's finances and the inflation and taxes Canadians pay as a result.
So that's a little reminder about how this all started. I find it interesting that they're finally using, they meaning the Conservatives, are finally talking about the fiscal cliff, because that's exactly what it is. And I tuned into this about 10 days ago. I was talking about it when I was on the road, that this is very reminiscent of what happened during the Obama era when we first started talking about the fiscal cliff. And of course, that's what leads to government shutdown in the United States, because Congress has to pass legislation to allow the debt ceiling to increase every time. That's why the government shuts down, because there's a disagreement between the executive and legislative branches. Because the legislative branch, which is Republican controlled, does not want to raise the debt ceiling. And the executive branch right now, still controlled by Democrats, wants to raise the debt ceiling. This cycle really began during the Obama era. And I remember talking about this when I was working at Sun News at that time. So I'm just looking at some of your comments here. And thank you for watching today. It's been a busy weekend, very very busy weekend, and I'm just about to start my Sunday shift at the Post Millennial, and that keeps me hopping all day. Trudeau is a fruitcake. Crew. Yeah, I love it. I love it. God it. God as he ever needs to go. Yeah. Mark Carney is a nobody. Yeah, he is. But that's what Pierre Trudeau once said about MPs. So once they step out of this chamber, they're nobodies. he was he was so dismissive. Uh, so that's where we are for the week. Now, here's what we need. We need to pay close attention tomorrow to this economic update because it's going to be newsworthy, and we need to pay close attention to whether you hear anything from Dominic LeBlanc or Justin Trudeau on border security, if they plan to actually do anything. Because if they don't do anything this week, it's the last week before the House recesses for Christmas. They will not be back until late January, probably February. It's too late. The tariffs will be slapped on if they do nothing this week, because when they're on vacation, especially at the end of December, nothing gets done in the House. Nothing, no government work is ever completed. And when you hear Dominic LeBlanc talk about, we'll roll that out when we roll it out, that it's inexcusable. How any minister of the crown could be talking that way. So I'm just, by the way, I saw a story this morning. I'm not putting it up, but I read this morning that Canadian patriotism is at an all-time low because people are so dejected after 9 years of Justin Trudeau. And that is something, which is very unfortunate because we've been pushed here. We've been pushing. Yeah, thanks for your comments. This is interesting. Stephen Seck, Ontario has already lost 20,000 manufacturing jobs this year. The whole EV battery thing is another blunder. Yes, there's no market for these batteries. There's no market for these batteries. And that is something, that's the reality check that's coming home. There's no market for these things. I'm just looking at a few more accounts. Yeah. If you know nothing about Pierre or how he governs practically, yeah, well, as I'm not getting into how sincere is Pierre Poilievre, I think he's relatively sincere, because otherwise Canada's over. We're finished. If he's posturing, if he's playing games, we're finished. And I think Pierre Poilievre grasps that. And I think sometimes he inches forward a little too slow for a lot of us, but he is moving in the right direction. The right direction. And I think that's something to be optimistic about. But we have to keep pushing from the right as journalists, as citizens, as voters. Don't ever trust a politician to do the right thing. I'll say that again and again and again. I worked on the Hill for years. I worked with great politicians and I worked with lousy politicians. I worked with lousy politicians who are on our side too. You never assume a politician is going to do the right thing. And you have to keep them honest. And it doesn't matter what their political allegiance says. You've got to keep them honest and focused on the issues that are important to you and I. Principled conservatism has to reign supreme, and we've got to keep that in mind at all times. So I'm going to be brief today. Thank you so much for watching. It's always a pleasure to come visit. Thank you for being a part of this experience. Yes, I think I'll show the Christmas ad again.
Ho, 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 ho!
We'll be back again tomorrow with all the news you need to know so we can all continue to resolve to resist. Bye for